a thing that I feel very, very emotional about it. Because I believe if we had handled the issue of electricity when we were in office by 2005, we would have provided enough electricity for the people of this country. But unfortunately, we did not follow that route. That is. I have said it in many interviews. You know.
You haven't said it to me, sir.
Yeah. Okay. I was then chairman of the Privatization Council, yes. And we commissioned international consultants come and help us. How do we get power within the shortest possible time? And they came. They went around the whole of this country. And they submitted their recommendations. Their recommendations were: one, create as many small and medium power stations by using various sources of energy across the country. If you do that, you will be able to achieve self-sufficiency in power by 2005. That was tabled, and it was rejected. We went for the huge IPPs using gas. And I made it very, very clear I did not believe it is going to be a long-term solution to our power problems, because we have militancy in Niger Delta, we have development of the gas infrastructure in Niger Delta. These are issues that are not going to be resolved in 4, 5, or even 10 years. So let's go for the short, medium-term, solutions to our power. That did not receive the approval of the government. The government went for the IPPs.
Of the government being the president or the executive, federal executive council?
Yes, of course, I've been the president. So we collected money from local government, states, federal government, and others. First set of contracts were given. Some contracts were paid 100%. We left, nothing was achieved. Then President Umaru Yar'Adua came. He also made available money. It went down the drain. Then President Jonathan Goodluck came. He also made money, went down the drain. Up till now, no IPP is working.
And we're not holding anybody responsible for all of this?
Unfortunately not. We are not holding anybody responsible for that. People have collected money upfront 100% and have disappeared and have not done any work.
We have light. What's the problem with light?
If you look at Nigeria's history, you will see that we keep changing governments, and we have this bad habit of stopping everything that the previous government has done, investigating, and by the time we pick it up, we've run out of time. So the first order of business that we proposed to the government at the time, this was in 2001, 2002, was let us reform the electricity sector, dismantle NEPA's monopoly, and establish a regulator, and then raise the electricity tariff by at least 200%. Okay? That way, you will attract the Dangotes and the Otedolas and other foreign investors to come and invest in electricity. Nobody listened to us. Obasanjo did not agree because he felt electricity tariffs should not be raised dramatically because it will hurt the poor. Our argument in BPE then was, no, the poor are in the village, they don't have electricity. The poor in Lagos, they are in Ajagule, they don't have electricity. It is the rich in Ikoyi, Victoria Island, that get more of the electricity. Let them pay so that we will have enough money and attraction for investment. So this was our plan. It was not until 2005 that President Obasanjo finally bought into that plan, and the Electric Power Sector Reform Act was passed, which, broke down NEPA into 18 companies and began to license private operators. But still.
Sorry, sir, what do you mean 18 companies till now?
Yeah.
NEPA is 18 companies.
NEPA has been broken. In fact, I did it in BP, but it was concluded after I left. NEPA was broken into 6 generation companies, 1 transmission and system operations company, and 11 distribution companies. In Lagos, there are 2 distribution companies here in Lagos. All right? And the idea was...
Sorry, sir. They must be distributing bread or something. Because they are They are not distributing lights.
No. They are distributing electricity. It's just that they do not have enough to give you 24 hours electricity a day. But they are. So you see the
Sorry
the
to keep cutting you, sir. They don't have enough. Sorry. Is this true? I keep hearing this. Is it true that we give another country light? I hear that there's one country that takes, and they have.
Yeah, we provide some megawatts of electricity. I can't remember exactly how much, to Niger Republic. Okay? And in Niger Republic, they don't have power cuts. But that is not because of NEPA's problem. NEPA gives them the electricity, but within Niger, they have organized themselves such that the power does not go off. We provide the electricity. Now, so in 2005, we had broken NEPA down into 17 companies. Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission had been established, the regulator, to issue licenses. The only thing that was left to kickstart investments in the sector was raise the tariff. And by then, because of exchange rate deterioration, you needed to raise the tariff by something like 400%. Again, elections round the corner, nobody wants to bite the bullet and do something like that. So it was not done. Instead, President Obasanjo decided, because by then we had built up the excess crude account. We had billions of dollars. We had paid off our debt by 2005. We still had about $5 billion in the excess crude account. So we proposed that money be used to build more power stations. So 9 new power stations were contracted to be built, 2 in the southwest, in Papalanto and Omotosho, and 7 in the Niger Delta, all using gas. Nigeria burns the equivalent of 28,000 megawatts of electricity every day. We burn the gas, which, if harnessed, we can generate 28,000 megawatts of electricity. At least this is correct 5 years ago. I don't know if they have reduced the flaring. So we said, instead of flaring this gas, burning it, why not build this power station? So the contracts were given. GE got the 7 Niger Delta power stations.
Sorry, sir, what's GE?
General Electric. General Electric is the largest turbine manufacturer in the world from the US. The Chinese got the 2 others. And these were being done. We had elections, we handed over, Eradua came and said, no, stop. Okay, now, Eradua is dead, so I never got the chance to ask him. But who on earth would stop the construction of power stations in Nigeria based on what reason? There is nothing we need in this country more than power. On whatever terms, at whatever price, I would build power stations and ask questions after the electricity is received by the people. But President Eradua stopped it. President Eradua, a governor of a PDP government that became president, stopped these projects that were started by a previous PDP government. And up till today, as we speak, our plan to complete those power stations was December 2007. As we speak, they have not been completed. And I'm sure the price has doubled. And I give you this as an example of why our electricity problems have not been solved. And if you go back to the previous government, you will find a similar story that someone started and President Obasanjo came and said, stop, I want to investigate this. This is the problem. If today President Goodluck assembles a sound technical team and gives them the authority and an open check, Nigeria can stop having power outages in 3 to 5 years. It's possible. It can be done.
3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years. We can do it.
It cannot be done in less than 3 years, but I believe it can be done in between 3 and 5 years. It can be done.
All right, sir.
So with regards to power, to get us from the miserable 7,000 megawatts to 24,000, adding 17,000 megawatts, we were expected to invest about $10 billion.
Where you
and
getting
$10 billion
that money
will come from investors who are interested in making their money the same way we had investors come in with telecommunication companies, and in 1 year, MTN took out $13 billion out of this country from profits.
Mr. Sowore,
yes.
Let me tell you. that politicians generally say. And I'm trying to get into details with you.
To be specific.
Yes, and so,
I'm being specific.
The point I'm making is, under this administration, for example, and the previous administration, power was privatized, all apart from the transmission network. Hang on. Distribution as well as generation.
Yes.
And we had private sector people coming.
Yes.
And so I'm trying to understand, how does your plan differ from what we have currently? And I'd also like Dr. Rufai at some point to jump in, because under the Constitution, as VP, he's also head of the Economic Council.
Yes.
So I'd like to get a sense as well from him.
I want to correct the impression that power was privatized. Power wasn't privatized. They wanted to deregulate and privatize the power sector. They did the privatization, they didn't do the deregulation. Build their own generating stations so that we can have power. They didn't have one. We sold what belonged to Nigeria under the market price to the same people, who then turned around, got subventions from our government, and that was how the PDP spent $16 billion generating darkness in this country. This government has continued the same thing. So when you claim that you want to deregulate and you don't deregulate so that there's no competition, and you say you are privatizing and you are giving to your friends, you come in today. Yes.
What are you going to do?
I have said it, and I'm repeating here again, that we come in today, we are hooking up solar panels for 4,000. We are creating, solar farms that will generate 4,500 megawatts of power. We are going to do 90 kilowatts per university, right? And we are going to do solar farms across the country for 500 megawatts each. It takes less than, please, if you listen to me, I'll deliver this to you so that Nigerians can hear it. It takes less than a year. It took Egypt less than 2.5 years to do 14,000 megawatts at 500,000 naira per megawatts of power. It's the cheapest in the world. Here we can even do it cheaper because we have plenty of cheap labor to do it. I'm not saying we are going to abuse labor here. And it's the same Siemens who came to Nigeria trying to do the same thing, and people were asking them for bribes that went to Rascom, a state-owned power company in Egypt, to deliver the same. This is public information. You need leadership here. We don't have it.
I'm trying to understand.
That's the problem. You need innovation. We don't have it.
Because we do have a Power Act. I'm sure you know.
That what?
We have a policy and a law that has deregulated the sector.
But I'm telling you that there's no deregulation.
I'm trying to understand from the point of view of someone who becomes president, because you will have to work within the law, and I'm assuming that's it. So I'm trying to get a sense of, so for example, if you say you're going to build solar power plants, are these solar power plants going to be owned by government? Who's going to give you the money for that? Those are the kind of questions I'm looking for answers for.
And I have answered it partially, that it happened in Egypt, it happened in Morocco, and there are people who are looking for places where they can build power stations, make their money, and let people enjoy power.
So you're just going to open up the market, basically.
Of course, that is what deregulation was supposed to be in the first place, is to give license to people who will come and generate power, not to sell what belongs to the Nigerian people to friends or politicians, and then give them subventions. And now, when there's even 3,000 extra to be evacuated, they don't do it because it doesn't bring profit to them. It is a cannibalistic system of power generation that is killing us. And people who are in the power business can testify to this. I'm telling you that we need leaders who are courageous not to face these people who are making it impossible for Nigeria to make progress. It's not an argument between you and I, it's an argument about the future of our people.
Dr. Rufai?
Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to make some of the points he made even clearer and louder, and then also dwell on the question on Al-Majri system. You will recall in 2011, there was a Fukushima nuclear disaster in Japan. It's an energy-driven country. They almost went flat because of what happened. What happened? They invited a German and British company to go, and they fixed it within 1 year. So it's doable. Nigeria can generate 12,000 megawatt in a year if the right incentive is given, the right sense, actually, and the courage and the sincerity from the side of government. And I don't like this pessimism that we really have to get stuck in this conundrum for any longer. Believe you me, when Siemens came to Nigeria wanting to sign PPP, that's public-private partnership to create the solar, Nigeria turned them down because of graft. People were asking for bribe, and that's the norm in this country. They had to go to Egypt, and then they got 14,500 megawatt in a matter of 2 years, and at a cost of $7.5 billion only. So unless when is not really serious, but we are a serious party, we are courageous, we are determined actually to change the status quo.
Yes. Good evening, Nigerians. My question is still on power. And I have every reason to take you back. And I'd like to remind you that power is on the exclusive list of the federal government. You have not accurately explained to Nigerians how you are going to tackle power that is on the exclusive list of the federal government, because you haven't said that you are going to remove it.
Okay, ma'am.
From there.
Thank you. What about the issue of power that was raised and the fact that power is actually on the exclusive list? And in discussing your plan, you didn't talk about how you're going to get around that problem.
You see, that's an interesting thing about Nigeria. So power is on the exclusive list, which means that the federal government has absolute control over power. But when it is time to sell assets in the power sector, it becomes a private issue. In fact, people tell you that government have no business in business. But when it is time to pay to power companies power that they supply, they give the invoice to the federal government. I am interested in ensuring that there's power. Whether it is exclusive or inclusive, whichever list it can belong to, as long as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I can light up this country. It will be a legislative agenda that I will discuss with legislators at the National Assembly that, look, the most important thing is not the language in which we couch where power belongs, but how our people can get electricity. That is what is most important. What I'm saying here, and let me land, what I'm saying here is that this idea that we are deregulating and privatizing a sector that suddenly is also still in the exclusive lists, and the federal government is not supposed to say anything about it, is the oxymoron of the power sector. It's not oxymoron in my view, it's abracadabra. They don't want there to be light in this country. We have paid for it. Where did the 16 billion naira that the PDP spent on power come from? The federal government. Yep. But nobody is holding the private sector responsible for darkness. It's the federal government that is responsible for the lack of electricity in this country. The federal government better guide its loans, recover what it needs to recover. What our people need is light, not excuses and where it belongs.
And it sounds great, you know.
But you know,
hang on. It sounds great and populist, and you'll get your applause. But when you're in government, they're practical. Let me finish.
This is what they always tell us.
I'm going to ask the question. There are practical issues. There are rules. There are policies that guide these things. And to be able to change those rules, you must either go to the National Assembly or find a way to get people across. And so her question is still valid because the federal government remains in charge. And so when you talk about deploying farm solar panels and all of that, there are real practical things to be dealt with in terms of who is allowed to do what. Exactly. And that is really her question. How are you going to get around that particular fact?
But that's what I'm saying. It is still the duty of the federal government. The federal government is still the authority in charge of granting the power for people to generate electricity. It is still the federal government. It is still the federal government that is in control of the TCN, what they call the Transmission Company of Nigeria. So the federal government has not lost the power to power up Nigeria to the extent that I should be sweating about the legislative concerns about that. We have enough power as the federal government to light up this country. We've looked at the laws, we've looked at the rules, but the rules that nobody wants to talk about is the people who are sabotaging our ability to generate electricity, and as a result we we can't industrialize. Our children can't go to bed to do their homework because there's no light. We cannot have an economy that is built around darkness. That is the truth. She said it, that in this country, the cost of production is the highest because we don't have electricity.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on the current complaints about low tariffs from the supply side? Will you address steady power supply first, or will you increase tariffs first?
No.
Because, you know, there's that issue of what comes first. Is it the chicken or the egg? Because the current distribution companies argue that they are so regulated that they cannot charge what is a commercial rate for power. And that basically stops them from being able to invest and be able to do what they need to do. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
So the interesting thing is that it's a very simple issue. There's a consumer, which is the demand side, and there's a supply side. Do you know what is driving tariffs up? It's because they want to collect more than they are supplying. Just come and give people prepaid meters. An average household in Nigeria consumes about 6,000 naira electricity per month. But the power companies, being the greedy people they are, want to collect 20,000 naira from you. If they take their 6,000 naira per household or per meter, they still make a profit. They make
let me ask you a specific question.
But you cannot continue, let me say this, you cannot satisfy the greed of people who are not interested in getting satisfied. And that's where government comes in. It is not a matter of regulation. Go and ask the power ministry now. The Minister of Power is looking for a third party to supply meters, prepaid meters to consumers, because they can't get these greedy power suppliers to make it available. Even when they are available, why? Do you know what will happen? At the end of the day, the cost of those third-party involvement will still be transferred to the consumer. Whereas if you don't have special interests who sponsor you to office, who are your godfathers, you just have to be government. You take a stand and you say, sir, every prepaid meter out there must be given to consumer. And if you are not, there are people, plenty of people who are willing, and I mean it, willing to generate power, willing to supply power for 6,000 naira per household, make enough profit from it, and then everybody will be happy. But it makes you're making it sound like these things are difficult. But I'm looking at it from the point of view of what is easy to do.
I am trying to understand the practice. There are these distribution companies, they're already in place.
Yes.
They've bought all these assets. They're responsible for distributing power within certain areas. Everybody has their geolocation, has their location. So I'm trying to understand from a practical point of view, you get into office, what exactly is going to happen? And I'm not sure I'm clear.
No, I'm very clear that the day I get into office.
What will be your relationship, for example, with the distribution companies? Will you be seeking to take away their distribution licenses? What will you do?
Look, some of them are not even carrying out what they have been licensed to do. We cannot continue to pamper those ones. We'll take back their licenses. If you are not distributing, you don't sit down on a license and refuse to carry out the service for which the license is met. That is where the regulation was supposed to have. That was why I discussed the regulation earlier. If these license owners had been the ones who are generating their electricity, they would have been eager to distribute it. But because it doesn't belong to them, and they got it at
buy it.
Huh?
They buy it.
They banked?
They buy it from the generation.
They didn't buy anything. These guys they dashed it to them. Some of them are going to jail now. No, it's true. You know, some of them have been arrested for how they duped banks to buy these things. We gave them subventions. This country gave them trillions, almost $1 trillion naira subventions after we gave them the power sector generating companies at under the table, under market value prices. I have been involved in investigating these things. I'm just telling you that probably that's the reason why they will sit up. I'm not going to do any body language.
Disrupt everything. That's what I'm hearing.
Why won't you disrupt criminality? That's the job of the executive section. If there are criminals taking advantage of your people, do you just sit down there and say, because
Final question before we go on break. Part of the problems that Nigeria has, particularly with investors, is that people believe governments don't respect agreements. You have one government come, do a concession, give a license, agree a contract. Another government comes and disrupts it.
Yes.
And this has a serious implication for confidence. So those investors that you keep wanting to attract, the PPP that you're talking about, get a little bit wary of this country because they think people come and they change things. It sounds like what you want to do.
No. Do you know why those kind of PPPs are difficult to deal with? Because when they have a president that is called Fortunato, collecting bribes, you lose your integrity before partners. But this is the most important thing you must understand. There are international agreements governing investment in every country. We have discussed MTN taking out $13 billion. If Sahara Reporter hadn't exposed it, the federal government would not have asked them to bring back the money. And when they did, what did they do? They went back to the door. We are only getting 80-something million naira back from 13 billion naira that they took away illegally through the Central Bank of Nigeria. That is criminality. And that is what we are going to disrupt. But you knew that what did they do? They went to judges to be looking for injunctions. Whereas they are supposed to just respect an agreement, not to take money illegally out of this country. You do it in the US,
we have to be careful
you are going to
not
jail.
to libel people. I know you are used to be sued. I'm not.